All right, let's go ahead and get started. So, really quickly, I'll be over there in front of the camera in a second. Just wait. um, so last time we were talking about the cameras that you would have in your rental properties. I'll explain this in a second. Just hold on a second. Just really quickly. So we were talking last time about like having cameras in those common areas for your rental properties. And an idea was brought up of like, well, you can just have them there. You don't even have to have them like running because like it would electricity, right? It costs money. You don't even have to have them like running. You just like have it there as like, oh my god, the idea of being watched and that sort of thing. Actually, go ahead and make sure that they actually are on. The reason why is because we do want to actually catch acts of vandalism like when it happens. So that you know who does it and who can be held responsible, that sort of thing. So now on to this thing. So earlier, I had said that the period, I had misread the calendar based off of just history, that it would be the 16th of April that we would find this peak of the second, bump, so to speak, getting like, for lack of a better word, bump, but it'll become like more obvious as time goes on, that sort of thing. Uh, Staying in line with what as what history has shown us, and what it has been doing, staying in line very closely with what has happened with the last bubble that was the closest to this, which was the dot-com bubble, across the different indices. Namely for the S&P 500, this is the Russell 2000, the IWM for it. But for namely the SPY and the Nasdaq, they're following very, very, very closely to that bubble on a number of different fronts. Anyway, so yeah, so not the 16th actually. Somehow I misread the calendar. It'll actually be the 18th. And there's something weird about this too, and I'll show you guys this in a second here. So let me go ahead and am I even still on camera? Hold on a second. Let me make sure that you can see me what I'm doing here. Okay. All right. Okay. There. Okay. All right. Here we go. Okay. So, there's actually something kind of funny that I've noticed over the last couple weeks, is that there's like, I'm not one for like conspiracy theories or anything like that. We've gone over like weird things that are going on. Again, like when I said like the historical like references mapping on really accurately to what's going on now. Eerily, like this is the same. And Jeremy Betham, I was watching a video by him recently that was done like a couple of months ago, and he said like, yeah, the market's like kind of repeating itself like weirdly in like this uncanny way. Anyway, so but there's a note down here that says the day after Sunday is repeatedly off by 1 day forward. So what I mean by this is that if you look at like this day, because they don't include, like you see like right down here these days, right? It doesn't include the weekends because on the weekends the market isn't open. So over the last like couple of weeks, what's happened is that if you look at like, well, here's what Monday should have been. It should have been the 13th. I don't, just a random number. It doesn't matter. Instead, it would show it being the 14th, and it'd be like weird. And as for right now, I actually can't go to, you see here, I actually can't go to the 18th. See, it's the 16th here, and then suddenly it's the 19th. If you look at the calendar, however, right, that's not what happens. The 18th right here, that's Monday. For some reason, they're showing it as here. It's weird because what happened for, again, the last bubble, the dot-com bubble, of course we had the great financial crisis, but just, looking at that, anyways, it was on the 17th. The 17th isn't able to be here, so it's on the 18th now. Anyway, so just want to say, again, like I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. It's just sort of weird, and you see so many different things of like that's really weird that they would, you know what I mean? Like it's just sort of like the exact day. But anyways, though, just want to put that out there. Not the 16th, actually, the 18th will be the closest day, and it'll be on a Monday. Anyways. So I want to go over really quickly the area for resistance that we'd be looking towards. Again, keeping in mind that it would be continuing along with history as it has been showing us, with what has happened during the dot-com bubble, and as it has been acting in line with what happened then. So continuing on. about 215, about right here. This is based off of technical analysis, and of course historical analysis, but yeah, so 215. This is not supposed to be a guarantee by any sort of means. Just an idea of area of resistance, right? I could be wrong. Maybe it goes to 220. Maybe it only goes to 213. Like I just, you know what I mean? Like, but keeping in line with what has been happening repeatedly, this would be the best idea, so to speak. And again, this would be the area for 215. Looking at that to see it going up to complete that second bump, so to speak. And just to give you an idea of what it would look like, and I could say a lot more on this sort of thing, but just really quickly, just to show you like what it would look like. If we go back to here and we look back all the way back to the .com bubble, get there in a second here. Oh yeah, that's right, it's touchscreen. This blows my mind. I had no idea these things were touchscreen. It's weird. It's like it shouldn't be like that, you know? Anyways, yeah, all right, there. That sort of thing. That's this thing right here. That's what we're talking about. This thing being the top of that second bump. Again, for lack of a better word. Again, you see it's on the 17th. We don't have that, anyways. But yeah. So it'll be on the 18th instead. And you know, again, not anything of a certainty, but it's just kind of like weird, like how eerily. Again, I could talk a lot more, but we've already kind of gone over those things. Anyways, so there's that part. I also wanted to talk quickly about expanding a little more on the idea of, particularly with leveraged ETFs, and investing in those over the long term and over like many years, and what that would look like, you know, if you were to do this. So there's a few different calculations. I'll show this really quickly. This is only 1.3. There have been leveraged ETFs that have done 1.7. This, by the way, it references the CAGR, for those who, like, you know, don't remember or are new, whatever. Compounded annual growth rate. It's an actual formula you can, you know, find for it. Anyway, so I believe what it is actually is like the end amount divided by the beginning amount, and then parentheses, and then to the power of 1 over n, or the number of years. Anyway, so it's that formula. Anyways, regardless, so there's 1.3. Then we've found ones that have done 1.7, but there's 1.3 though, which is on a more real conservative side, so to speak, for $5,000 now to 25 years. Okay, just to 25 years. I'm 21 right now, so I'd be 56. I did that wrong, didn't I? I need 46, my bad. Anyway, so just to, you know, just that, right? Just $5,000, just once. That's it. You end up with $3.5 million. And again, this is just with 5. What happens if you did 7 or something like that, right? We can see that, you know. But really quickly though, and I'll show it a little afterwards. But here's to 24 years. So said now I'm 45, right? Or I should really phrase it like this: is that we're looking at, like, here's the net. So this year, if I were to put $5,000 into these, again, don't do this now because we're massive bubble. We're just looking at right a little context. That if you were to do this now, and it would go on for 25 years, you would have $3.5 million. And of course, you're paying taxes on this, but you only do that once because you actualize it. You sell your position, that sort of thing. If you wanted to do that, and we'll go over this later too. There's these things called S blocks, which is security-based line of credit. So you're taking a loan against what you actually have, so you don't even have to sell, that sort of thing. So you can keep on compounding. Anyways, it's something that rich people do. Again, this is just like right now $5,000, and then the next year as well. Here's another $5,000, and it goes until, you know, the same age at 46. Right, the same age. It's just that this one is 1 year less, right? Because I did it 1 year later, so that's 1 year less to compound. Anyways, so what happens is that it goes to 2.7 million. The next one after that, the next year after that one, here's 2. So, and this is just 3 years. What does that end up with by the time that I'm like 40, 46, right? I have $8.2 million. Just by the time I'm 46, and it was only with 3 years, and it was only with $5,000, right? But if I did 7 or something like that in 1 year, just 7,000, something like that, I can't do that unfortunately. Here, let's look at that really quickly down here. 7 times parentheses 1.3 to the power of 25. All of a sudden, it's like 5 million. Anyways, so there's that for reference. And again, this was just with 3 years. Most people say, most calculators online and different, various different experts would recommend that for at least our generation, like millennials and stuff, that they should probably have about $1.3 million for themselves to retire on. By the time you're just based off this, right, with just $5,000, just three times. Forget about like all the other years, right? But for just 3 times though, you would end up with 8.2 million. So, doing quite well, so to speak. So there's that. Also, we talked about this earlier with like struggle meals and stuff. Great idea. There's also other things I was wanting to talk about. HelloFresh was a really good one that I found, which is just like meal deliveries. You can get 16 free meals. That's like a promo they got going on. And why bother, that sort of thing, is that they have $5 dinners for you. They're just like, here's a dinner, here's $5 for that dinner, and they got really good reviews. So, being frugal and all that jazz. So there's that part. Okay, so the next part here is going to talk about a couple different things, literally a couple. At least that's the focus of it. But in context to what we've already talked about, just really quickly, what we already talked about, which is looking at why is the market going to be crashing? Why is it currently crashing? We've seen the bonds and the dollar hedging against the market, just really quickly. We've seen the valuations of it. We are in the largest stock market bubble that has ever existed by the Warren Buffett indicator, and tied for first place by another one, the Q ratio, and then for the third one, Shiller-Peeney, which was created by a Yale professor. Q ratio, by the way, was done by a Nobel laureate. Anyway, so really reliable valuation though, valuation metrics. We're like head and shoulders above 1929. So that's the context. That's valuations. We've seen what the at least I'll go over again so you can look at a little more clearly. In fact, we can just do that really quickly right now. The IWM, which, by the way, fun fact, small caps are known to lead large caps. Here's what that looks like. Long period of stagnation and consolidation. This is what we see consistently time and time again with like these significant tops. This is the most significant it has ever been, most blatant and obvious it has ever been. And it's currently crashing. We know why. We know why by a number of different factors. Again, bonds, dollars, valuations. Here's that. The federal funds rate is quickly being raised by like a significant portion, respective to like what it has done in history before. They've beaten even expectations. People were expecting like 3 to 4 raises. They're now doing 6. So there's that part. Market breadth. We've gone over that. There's a silent bear market. Most stocks are actually like they're actually actively crashing. And you just don't see it in the SPY because the real big ones, like Apple and Google and stuff, they aren't showing it. So there's a silent bear market, silent exiting out of the market. The war with Russia and also COVID. Now, here are the other things. So mind you, 1929 crashed because it got too big. The dot-com bubble crashed because it got too big. We have several factors going on that are showing like it's time. You know what I mean? Like we're crashing. You can see it's happening right now. We have so many different factors. We wouldn't even need any of those for a crash, but we have, on top of all that, we have all these things. Also, here's cycle analysis. So really quickly, there's some other factors for the sake of context, so you know what you're doing to be, so that you're educated and know what's going on. This is by someone who has over 40 years of experience. This is a sort of a loose science looking at the market. Like we want to say, you can't get exact with it, the stock market, because of how complex it is, but you can have real good ideas about how it works. Generalizations, just like with the reality of psychology. Psychology is known as a soft science because to get exact with it would be stupid complex. But we can understand general trends and the nature and the fundamentals of how it works and why it is. So this cycle analysis, this was done by this analysis was done by someone who has a team, also personally 40 years of over 40 years of experience in the stock market, was on the CBOE, which is the Chicago Board of Exchange, very reputable organization. And what it shows is that right here, if you want to see right here, this is the Great Financial Crisis. These are, to put it in succinctly, in one way, is that the more you see these downturns of these cycles, right, it increases the likelihood of a significant downturn. In the very least of the downturns that happen, they are more significant in and of themselves. So that was the Great Financial Crisis. And you can send this back a very long ways. It's actually pretty damn consistent. And then here was a minus 16% downfall, the 2016 mini bear. And then here we are. There we are. It lines up right there. Context of everything else that I've just been saying too, you know what I mean? It's just, another thing, by the way, wouldn't even need like most of these in order to be able to crash. And then also yield inversions. Yield inversions, I believe like one analysis, people are talking about it like consistently. Basically what it has to do with is bonds. So not only the bonds like hedging against the market, but what it also shows is that the yields for these things are diverging. And I'll show you really quickly what this looks like. Basically, the point of it though is that people are having less faith in the like near future than they are in the long-term future, and usually it's the opposite, because the yields that like the money you can get from putting in bonds into the short term are more of a higher return than for the long term. So yield inversions just means that there's that situation going on with like bond investors are not believing so much in the near term nearly as much as they are in the long term. Historically speaking, what this is amounted to is just like what it looks like. There's a 30-year, and then we can look at the 10-year. I know it's like flipped like that right now. I'm trying to find, I'm sorry. There's that one. Do I not have that? Oh, there it is. There it is. Anyways, what you'd be able to see though is that from nature, this isn't like the most clear, but from the nature of it though, that there's this divergence basically. This isn't like the best way to show it. I'd have to like show you something else. Sorry for being a little unprepared. I totally take it on me. But you can see this yourself. There's a lot of people talking about it as well. But yeah, so just that in a nutshell. Anyways, just wanted to show that really quickly. Go ahead and get out of this. And then now onto the last bit here. So let me go ahead and turn this over. Again, that yield inversion though, that's a real thing that's going on. Again, not the best way to show it on my part, so I do apologize for that one, but it is real and you can see it up on YouTube. People are talking about it. It often leads to, why it's important is because often it leads to recessions. That's actually what happens historically, statistically speaking, overwhelmingly actually. I remember one analysis that when the yield inversions happened, like the last 10 times that it happened, 7 of those times that happened, there was a recession that happened as well. So that sort of thing, just context. So here's the last part. We're going to be going over just quick little bits here, things that are important to keep in mind. What does that look like? Yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. Anyways, so this is a part of the that part, explaining the part, just so you know what's going on. What you can look to be able to say like, okay, like here's what I can expect for this cost. Looking at those cards I hand out, most people will know what I'm talking about. $1,200. What that number comes from. Again, if you want to know more about what I'm talking about here, you can look at the previous videos. Look at the description; it'll say like, here's what's like going on in this video. That $1,200 is made up of these few things. So you have 400. Let's use this. 485 for the appraisal fee. That's what that is. That's an appraisal fee part. And then you have a credit report for 20. Whoa, jeez. Actually, why are they? Anyways, here. Yeah, that's better. Anyways. Okay, so there's $22. That is for a credit report fee And then you have a home inspection fee for approximately $500. Home inspection fee, credit report fee, and then this was the sorry, what was that? The appraisal fee. Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyways, appraisal fee. Okay. Anyways, there's that, and then a few little more costs here and there. Flood determination fee, $6. Flood determination fee, $6. And then you have the deed preparation fee, $60. Deed preparation fee, yes. There's 60, and just a few more left. Environmental protection fee is $25. Environmental protection fee. And then you have the recording deed fee for $40. Recording deed fee. And last one, recording fee for mortgage, $83. Recording fee for mortgage. Anyways, there's that. All right. That amounts to just a smidge over $1,200. That's what that is. This is for reference. By the way, this is from Chase Bank. So, go to several different, sources, and if you can find ones that are better, look at all the costs, obviously. But if you can find ones that are like, oh, hey, they charge you like quite a bit less by like a few $100s, something like that, somewhere here and there, then, go for that, right? It's cheaper. But yeah, just bedrock. It's a recurring theme that we talk about a lot. The bedrock here, because you can get better than this, but in the very least, $1,200. And then you're looking at as well the title search, or also like closing fees. So let me go ahead really quickly erase this. Okay, there's that. All right, and then for the that's it. Title search. I didn't say this, but slash closing fees. So just to clarify, these are the same. Effectively, the title search and closing fees, they come together. That's how they function. This is the part when we talk about community seconds covering for your closing costs. This is the stuff that they're closing. This amounts to $4,700. Now, the parts of that are twofold, and you're going to look at the lender's title insurance or the title search itself. In the very least, this is a part of the situation of this, so they may not be used as like being exactly the same. Sorry, I might have actually just gotten that little smidge wrong. My bad. Anyway, so the title search here is 25. Let's say 25.45. 25.45. Okay, for the title search, the lender's insurance, title insurance, AKA also known as the title search, and then there's the notary service, which is $21.50. These things come together. The notary service. So here. Okay. These things come together to make the closing costs there, basically. That notary service includes something, a phrase really, called mortgage origination fee. The origination fee to get a house, or the mortgage origination fee, these are the same thing. That actually is true. And that's encompassed by the notary service. But this is what you can expect, and these things come together, obviously, for the $4,700, also, again, a bedrock. But know something as well, that we have grants. Yay, more money. All right, so through a number of different things, you take like these like short-term courses that they say like, oh, just do like 8 hours and you'll get like $500, that's a real thing. But just some ideas at least. Grants for closing costs, like home buyer's online course, right? What I just said. From Chase, amounts to $500. And it actually, that's where I got that 8-hour thing from. It actually is from that. Anyway, so that's a grant that's out there in the world, bedrock. $2,500. That is from property location incentives. So we talk about, for example, we talk about the USDA loans that are like, here, you want to live in a rural place? That's perfect. Here, we'll give you this fantastic, loan, right? Loan rate and really low down payment, that sort of thing. This is like that, but it's just more in particular to like Chase's own thing, right? So this is available to you, $2,500 if you go to a certain location. It's just a thing out there, just to be aware, at least. A couple other requirements that I don't know if I talked so much, at least in depth, in concerns to getting the second FHA home is not only, again, like there's 60 miles, we talked about this, 60 miles away from your work. That's what you're at least looking for. You do more than this, fantastic. Also keep in mind as well, I don't know if I did say this one, but keep in mind, it's funny, it's being a philosophy major, it's just sort of make this connection. There's a philosopher out there by the name of Sartre. That a lot of you might have heard of him, a French philosopher, and he made a real big point, as an existentialist, he made a real big point on how free we are. That we're a whole lot more free than we give ourselves credit to, and we don't have to stay in the same place, we don't have to stay in the same relationship, have the same job, or anything like that. It's just expanded out through his philosophy, talking about understanding how free we actually are. This is sort of the point. So if you're working a job that you'd be like, I could do this somewhere else, do it somewhere else, because you need to be 60 miles away, and the whole point is like, well, you're not going to be so easily able to get to your job. It's going to be, the phrasing of it is, no reasonable commute. There's a lack of reasonable commute, and 60 miles is that sort of idea. That's one part. The other part is 3 months reserves. Yep. And there's another one too. 3 months reserves of the mortgage itself. So you don't have to. This isn't money you're spending. It's just money you gotta have. You just gotta have it on you. But you're not spending it though, so that's important. So at least 3 months reserves of the mortgage on hand is what they'll be looking for. The other thing, and I write this down, 3 months reserves. Okay, and then the other part. Last part here is trying to move from a smaller home to a bigger home. Just something that they like to see. We talk about going into like quadplexes and stuff. So it's kind of interesting thinking about like how are you going to go from, because the cap is 4 units for the FHA home, that and with help from these like different programs, that they say like no, from 1 to 4 units, that's it. It would be interesting to think about like how you would work with like going from 4 units, because you want to start with the most, to also 4 units. But there's some good ideas about how you can do that, like more square feet for the house. Like it may have the same number of units, but it has more square feet of the house itself, and also like a bigger yard, that sort of thing. So just things to keep in mind. So smaller to bigger. All right, anyways, there's that part. Okay, so last couple things here. Okay, so there's something called PMI. If you go with like a conventional mortgage, they'll give you something called the PMI, which is the private mortgage insurance. FHA loan doesn't have that. It has, in fact, actually something else, but it's basically the same thing, like cost-wise. It doesn't have like a particular name for it. It's just like the upfront mortgage costs. But the point about it though is that it actually doesn't have to be upfront. In fact, we don't want to do it either upfront. You want to roll it into monthly payments along with your mortgage. And we talk about this a lot, is investment potential. We want to look at the investment potential of the monetary potential, whichever, of your money though, because the more, rather really for you, the less upfront means the less later on, because you weren't able to use that money, right? Which is why, and we'll talk about this, with loans, all the same sort of thing, with like looking at like, can I get, a loan term for 15 years or, just 10? And you look at like the monthly payments, even though the 15 years versus the 10 will have more, interest over time. But if you look at your month-to-month payments, they'll be less. That's actually what you'll want to go with, because that'll mean that you'll be able to use the money that you got from them for a longer amount of time. And so long as you're beating the interest rate, that's the only thing that matters. That is actually flatly the only thing that matters. And so long as you can beat that on a consistent level, then that's what you need. in order to be able to make money from the situation. Being pragmatic about it and all. Anyways, yeah. So just again, the FHA loan doesn't have PMI, but it has upfront mortgage costs. Make sure to roll that into their version of PMI. Roll it into monthly payments. And then there's two different programs I want to talk about: Homeready and Homepossible. Just really kind of to be aware of it. It's probably just from like who I've been talking to and the things that I found. They're probably not going to be able to beat like the FHA loan like situation, but they're at least things to like keep in mind. They can have I believe even like lower down payments. But there's like certain like restrictions involved and stuff. There's benefits. We'll probably go more into those sort of things. Like so, for example, the programs can give as good rates, your interest rates, right, for your mortgage, as good as though you had an 800 credit score. And these things only require 660 and 680. The Homeready is 680 and the Homepossible is 660. We'll have to go. They also must be single family. That's the other thing. So if you go into a quadplex with like actually 4 separate dwelling units, for these sort of programs, they'd have to look at like not being 4 separate dwelling units, but like with one front door, that sort of thing. They look at like doors, that sort of thing. We'll go into a little more about those sort of things and why would you even like bother looking at them? But they tend to give like better rates than FHA loan. Yeah, we'll look more at the specifics of those, into the future, but like also just like be aware, like a heads up sort of thing, into the future. And when you are looking to get your second FHA loan, it's actually pretty important. When you guys are looking to get your second FHA loan, they'll be asking questions about like, why do you want this other house? Your point about it is to, in reply, give simple, realistic answers. So things like, I want to live closer to my family, or I'm realizing that the neighborhood that I'm currently living in is not a place that I actually really want to be living in, and I'm feeling like not well there, or not as good as I could, sort of thing. Like I just feel uncomfortable living there. Something like that. Closer to family would be a pretty good answer. I want to live closer to friends. I'm realizing, again, the environment that I've set myself into is I'm having like buyer's remorse, that sort of thing. Realistic, simple answers. That's what they'll go with. So just keep that in mind. Okay, DSCR loans. We talked about this before. That's for the rental. That's what they stand for is debt coverage service ratio. So loans that you get for rental properties after your first 2 FHA loans, if you want to go into that. They'll require a pre-approval letter, just like heads up about that one. So by the way, also just to remind you guys, when you are like, now we're gonna start looking for a house, at that exact moment, also start the process for a pre-approval letter. Start that as well. Credit card churning. What this is a certain strategy that you can use to take advantage of like the introductory bonuses that different like credit cards like give you and stuff. Oh, my bad. Sorry. Oh yes. Anyways, to put that one into a nutshell, what that really just refers to is like, for example, my credit card with Chase, it was called Freedom Flex. They had an introductory period or a bonus that was like, if you spend within like the first 6 months, I think, $500, or I think it was that. Yeah. If you spend $500 in the first 6 months, something like that, they'll give you $250 back. Credit card churning is basically like taking all these like credit cards and like using them to like take advantage of those sort of things. If you have like a low credit history, in other words, like it's like you have a recent credit history that you don't have a lot of credit history, right? Because you haven't had like a credit card for the longest amount of time, basically. This wouldn't be like the best idea. because it would be taking out a hard inquiry is what it's called, to like, here's this starting this line of credit, here's a credit card, there it is, that's a hard inquiry. Versus a soft inquiry is like, hey, what's your credit score? That sort of thing. If you're like looking up, like, what kind of loans can I get? And they'll be like, well, what's your credit score? That's a soft inquiry, and they'll find that out, and but yeah, that's, and then versus hard inquiry. So keep that in mind for like how that can affect if you get a lot for your credit card history, rather your credit score, because it can affect you like that. But regardless, that put aside that, you can do, I believe, 5. Yeah, I was just talking to someone, and as far as it, like, if you have something of a history, how many inquiries could you make, hard inquiries, until it starts at, like, actually affecting your credit score? And they say no more than 5. No more than 5 on a rolling 2-year period. So what this means, what this refers to, is if you look at like so put it into like a hypothetical, right? That it's like here's here's this credit card right now, right? And then like a year and a half later, here's another credit card, right? That first credit card has 2 years until it's like, doesn't matter anymore, don't worry about it. The other one, right, is here's a year and a half later, right? It also has 2 years. It also has 2 years to doesn't matter anymore, right? It's not like here in this, how many inquiries in this 2-year period from 2016 and 2018, and then 2018 to 2020. It's not like that. It's each individual instantiation has its own 2-year period. Here's a credit card here. Here's a credit card over there. 2 years for that one, and 2 years for that one. So